What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the X-Men as we now work our way up to the Executioner's Song, the next crossover that we are going to talk about down the road. But before we are able to actually talk about that crossover, there are a few books we gotta talk about. And so today's video is going to be about Wolverine issue number 41, 42, and 43. This is another three-part story arc that does pick up where our last video left off at. Now, in this three-part story arc, we're going to see Wolverine going up against Sabertooth, but also getting some help from Cable. Yeah, you heard that right. It's Wolverine and Cable now working together to bring down Sabertooth. But Sabertooth is also going to share a supposed secret of Wolverine's past. Now, like I said just a moment ago, this three-part story arc does pick up where our last one left off at. And so let me go ahead and give you a quick rundown in what happened in the previous story. Now, we did learn our last video that Donald Pierce, who is a cyborg, was trying to go after Wolverine once again. Now, like I said, Donald Pierce is a cyborg who's part of a group called the Reavers, and every member of the Reavers are actually cyborgs as well. Now, their main goal is to go after the X-Men, really the mutant race, but especially the X-Men. But for Donald Pierce, his main target is Wolverine. Now, we did learn in our last video that Donald Pierce had created two cyborgs to go after Wolverine. Now, the first one, his name is Albert. Really, he was just a clone of Wolverine, kind of look and act like Wolverine, but later on, he got some upgrades to be as smart as Albert Einstein, and matter of fact, took the name Albert to not get confused with Logan. Either way, when it comes to Albert, the cyborg Wolverine, he was created by Donald Pierce to kill off our hero. Now, the second robot was a young girl named LCD. Now, you see, for Donald Pierce, he kind of knew that, well, Logan always goes out of his way to protect innocent people, especially young girls. And so you had Donald go out of his way to create a cyborg to look, act, and think like a young girl. A girl that could possibly get close to Logan. Now, when it came to LCD, she's also a bomb. And so when it came to Donald Pierce, he knew that sooner or later, LCD would be able to get close to Wolverine. When it happens, she'll explode, she'll die, but so will Logan. But here comes the downfall of Donald Pierce's plans. You see, LCD began to have feelings. Once she saw Logan go out of his way to save her life, she began to kind of get close to Logan. And she's all like, listen, even though I'm a cyborg, I do have feelings, and now I care for you, and I don't want to die. I don't want to blow up. Now, the problem was her programming. It said, once you are close to Logan, blow up. Now, she was able to hold it off until Albert, the cyborg Wolverine, was able to give her a code to pause her programming so that she would not explode while being near Wolverine. And everything seemed okay except, you see, for Albert, he truly believed that LCD was actually holding back her own programs by herself, which means that sooner or later, she will not be able to fight back against her programs, which would mean that she would explode down the road. And so he felt like if he got rid of Logan, then her programs will no longer try to kill her off, because now her main target is no longer around. But the problem is Albert had no idea the code he sent to her actually put her programs on hold. So technically right now she is okay. It's not her fighting back against her own programs. They're on hold at the moment. But here's the problem though that all characters forgot about. Sooner or later, those programs are going to resume, because Forge told us at the very beginning of the last chapter in our last video, the programs are on hold, but sooner or later, they're going to resume. And when they do, boom, she'll die and anybody around her will also die. But either way, you had Albert, Logan, and LCD come to an understanding. The problem is Albert has stole a jet from a nearby military base. And so that jet began to shoot down the plane our heroes were on, and they crashed somewhere in the waters. And so at the end of our last video, we had no idea what happened to Logan. This 3-part story arc tells us what exactly happened to Logan and how he ends up fighting against Sabertooth. And so finally getting into the opening pages of today's story, we actually pick up with Forge and Jubilee. Now this is Forge and Jubilee trying their best to look in the waters to hopefully find Wolverine, LCD, really just Wolverine. Jubilee does not care at all for LCD, but they do swim down to where the jet had actually crashed at. The problem is they don't find Wolverine, they don't find LCD, and they don't find Albert, the cyborg Wolverine. And so Forge and Jubilee, they're kind of wondering what happened to all 3 characters, especially Wolverine. Now, unfortunately, our heroes have to give up their search at this time. And the reason why, a storm is coming in. And with that storm coming in, it'll be too hard for our heroes to search in the waters for their lost friend. Now we do learn that Wolverine is actually okay. Matter of fact, Wolverine is being dragged right now to the sewers or the storm drainage for New York City by LCD. Now LCD, she realized that she is unable to get Logan back to street level. And so with that, she has to leave him behind and to go find some help and come back with help to save Wolverine. Now after she leaves, Wolverine finally does wakes up, except he has a waking dream where he remembers his birthday many years ago, where someone had died. Someone close to him had died, a woman he loved, known as Silver Fox. But also he knows that she was killed off by a man who was also close to him, and that would be Sabertooth. Now, while you have LCD trying to get some help for Wolverine, she does walk over a dead body. Now, the dead body actually belongs to Sabertooth. And no, he's not dead. He's actually alive. And the reason why he's floating right now in the sewers of New York is because there was an earlier story arc where you had Caliban, another mutant who was working for Apocalypse around his time in Marvel Comics, wanted to get revenge against Sabertooth for what he had did back in the Mutant Massacre. Now, the Mutant Massacre was the first big X-Men crossover, but in that storyline, we had a new team around that time known as the Marauders, and they went into the tunnels of the Morlocks and killed off most of the Morlocks in that one event right there. Not all, but most of them. A lot of people had died. And so for Caliban, he wanted revenge against Sabertooth. And also Caliban just got some new upgrades thanks to Apocalypse. And so Caliban found Sabertooth, he broke his back. And so at that time, we were left to believe that Sabertooth was dead. But in reality, we all know this man cannot die. And the reason why? He has a healing factor. Except when LCD walks over Sabertooth, she says Logan's name. And so now he knows that Logan is also in the tunnels. Now, some of the Morlocks did go back to the tunnels of New York. As a matter of fact, they're being led by a character named Mask. Now, Mask and the Morlocks are not really that important for the entire story arc. Just know that with a storm coming in, Mask and the Morlocks are very worried about the idea of the sewers being flooded with water. And so he's telling his people, we have to direct the water into a different direction. And of course, that direction is where Wolverine, Sabertooth, and LCD are at. Now you have Logan just walking around the sewers, but this man is still having a waking dream where he remembers that he confronted Sabertooth for killing off the woman he loves, Silver Fox. And once you have Logan being able to confront Sabertooth in his dream, but also in the real world, you then have the two characters fight against each other. And that truly does wake up Logan right then and there. Now, here's the thing though. Wolverine has no idea why he is so close to Sabertooth. Like, what is their connection? And so you have Sabertooth tell Wolverine, oh, you don't know? I am your father. Now, we already know that this is a big fat lie, but around this time in Marvel Comics, we didn't know much about Wolverine's past. And so we were left to believe that in the possibility that Sabertooth could be Wolverine's father in some kind of sick way, maybe. Either way, you do have the two guys fighting against one another. Now for LCD, she is able to find some help, and that help is actually Cable. You see, Cable went back down in the sewers to kill off Sabertooth to make sure he actually stays dead, because when Caliban had broke Sabertooth's back, Cable and the New Mutants were also there as well, and they saw what happened. But this is Cable saying, I gotta make sure that Sabertooth stays dead and does not try to come back. Now LCD does tell Cable like, hey, you gotta help me out, my friend needs help. And as soon as Cable asks, okay, who's your friend? She says, oh, it's Wolverine. And he's kind of like, oh, that's somewhat intriguing. Now, getting back over to the battle between Wolverine and Sabertooth, we do see those two characters go back and forth in their battle. Now, while you have the two guys fighting against each other, let's not forget that Mask and the Morlocks are redirecting the water into those different tunnels that Sabertooth and Wolverine are in. And so right now, their tunnel begins to flood. Now, Wolverine is able to find a door that can most likely get him out of there. The problem is the door is locked from the other side. And also, Sabertooth is not done with Wolverine just yet. And so those two guys continue on. Now, on the other side of that door is Cable and also LCD. And so you would think that Cable would just go ahead and shoot the lock off to allow Wolverine to kind of get away from Sabertooth. But he's not trying to do anything in a hurry, it seems. But before we are able to learn why, we actually jump back over to Jubilee and also Forge. And they're kind of wondering, where could Logan possibly be yet? Now, while they're thinking that, we go back down to the plane crash from the very beginning of this story. And we see that, well, Albert, the cyborg Wolverine, he has survived. And right now, he's turning back on, which means, once again, his main goal is to find LCD, which means he'll have another run-in with Logan and possibly Sabertooth as well. And so as we dive into the second chapter, we do see Sabertooth and Wolverine continue on with their fight as the tunnels flood, but you then have Cable and also LCD begin to argue with one another. Now, the reason why these two guys are going back and forth is because to Cable, he's not for sure that it's Wolverine behind the door. It could be Sabertooth or somebody else. But for LCD, she says she knows it is Wolverine. Now, his claws does pop through the actual door. It's kind of like, okay, it is Wolverine, let's get in there. But Cable is still kind of not really trying to open the door. So you have LCD, and this is kind of funny to me, you have LCD being able to take her head off and throw her head at Cable to bite him. And then he gets so freaked out, he throws his gun in the air, and her body, out the head, is being able to grab the gun and then use the gun as a way to blast the door open to allow Wolverine and Sabertooth to get out of that tunnel right there. But like I said earlier, that tunnel was flooding, and so all that water is now being shot at Cable and LCD as well. Now, because you had the Morlocks close different gates earlier, when Cable, really LCD, had opened that door, all that water pushed all our characters down the tunnels to another floodgate. Now, this would not really be a problem because all that excess water is getting out. But the problem is, though, there's trash in the sewers that's now piling up. With all that trash piling up, that means water is not being able to get out the floodgate. And so now the room our heroes are in is beginning to flood as well. And the problem is, the only way to open the gate, it seems, if the Morlocks open the gate. But the Morlocks have no idea our heroes are in their tunnels, and on top of that, they have no idea our heroes are stuck right now at a flood gate. Now for Mask, he has no idea that our hero's at the gate right now. All he knows is that the water is not getting out of their tunnels fast enough, which means sooner or later the homes of the Morlocks is going to flood. Now one of the Morlocks does tell Mask like, hey, I think it's because all the trash is now being built up at that gate, the last gate where all the water is trying to get through. And so you have Mask tell the Morlocks to turn on the cleaning system. Now, the cleaning system is, a way to get rid of all debris in the sewers so the water can actually get out still of the sewers. And so that cleaning system is near our heroes. And it does seem like our heroes might be crushed by the cleaning system. Now, Wolverine is still trying to fight against Sabertooth, and Sabertooth wants to kill Wolverine. And matter of fact, he's still playing the card that he's Wolverine's father. Now, Cable wants to kill off LCD because he blames her for their current situation, but Wolverine stops Cable from killing off LCD. Now, LCD, she does feel bad with what she has done, and so she was able to take her head off once again and send her body into the cleaning system. When she does that, of course, she explodes. Because remember, her entire body was made to be a bomb to kill off Wolverine. Instead, she used the bomb as a way to save Wolverine, to get rid of the cleaning system. And also, with the gears all gone, the gate does open up, all the trash gets out, all the water gets out, and our heroes will no longer be drowned in that particular area. Now, luckily for our heroes, Forge and Jubilee heard our heroes screaming for help, and so he called up Nick Fury. We do learn that Forge has done a lot of jobs for Nick and S.H.I.E.L.D., and so S.H.I.E.L.D. owed Forge at least one favor. And so Nick was able to bring in a chopper to save all our characters, including Sabertooth. Now, once our heroes do get on the chopper, you didn't have Cable tell Wolverine that he was able to grab the head of LCD. And it does seem like everything is going to be okay now, and Sabertooth is a prisoner. But you have LCD say, no, you don't understand. Like, most of my batteries that kept me alive was actually in my body, not my head. Right now, I'm just running on some reserve power. Sooner or later, I am going to shut down completely, and then I'm gone completely. Like, this is my end right here. Now, with all this sadness in the room, apparently it does upset Sabertooth a lot, where he does go after Wolverine once again, because apparently no one knows how to make sure a prisoner is actually secure. Either way, you have Wolverine and Sabertooth fight once again, but LCD decided to use her last few moments as a head, but as a cyborg, to take care of Sabertooth to save Wolverine. And so she jumps on Sabertooth and bites him really hard, where of course it does freak him out. And him and her, they both fall out of the helicopter into the waters. Now for Wolverine, he's really sad about the idea that he lost LCD. Now, when it comes to Cable, Jubilee, and Nick, she was just a cyborg. But to Wolverine, and also Forge as well, she was a girl. Yes, she was a cyborg, but she still had feelings in a way. Now for Wolverine, he was also still kind of wondering in the idea of Sabertooth being his father. But you didn't have one of the scientists or random person on the actual helicopter say, hey, listen, I ran both blood samples for you and Sabertooth. There's no way that man is your father. So we have no idea why in the world he believes he is your father or why he was saying that, but like, hey, he ain't your dad. Now, it does seem like Nick might know a few secrets of Wolverine's origin, but he tells Wolverine, I can't tell you anything at all because that is classified. And that continues on with the idea of us not knowing the complete origin of Wolverine. But as the body of LCD and Sabertooth go deeper into the waters, they're still fighting against each other until LCD is saved by Albert, the cyborg Wolverine. And we do learn that he is actually okay. And now his goal is to save LCD. Now we do jump into Wolverine issue number 43. Now with this chapter alone right here, we do pick up with Wolverine still having a conversation with Nick Fury, because Wolverine wants to know if Nick does know anything about his past. But you have Nick say, hey man, listen, it's classified. I can't tell you. And so with that, Wolverine said, you know what? I'm going to take your cigar for one, and two, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go ahead, get out of the helicopter and go somewhere else in the city so that I am alone and actually have the ability to think without hearing you guys try to tell me how I should think or how I should act. And so you have Wolverine leave. But now we have to jump over to Mask. Now, when it comes to Mask, we see him and the Morlocks realizing that there was some kind of battle in the tunnels. And of course, we already know it was Wolverine and Sabertooth. But while they're kind of inspecting the damage in the actual area, they're then confronted by Albert, the cyborg Wolverine, who's holding onto the head of LCD. Now, you have Albert tell Mask, hey, I need some power, like some kind of electrical power to help keep her head alive, because if you don't help me, she's going to technically die as a cyborg. Now at first you have Mask not really trying to actually help out, but you have Albert say, no man, you are gonna help me out. And so you have Albert take out a few Morlocks and then ask Mask again, like, hey, do you have some kind of power that can help me keep her head alive? And you have Mask agree to help out Albert. Now, the rest of the third chapter is really more of Logan being in Central Park and using the park as a way to pretend that he's back out in the wild again. But while doing that, he does pick up the scent of blood nearby. And so you have Logan go over to that location where he does learn that, hey, it came from a zoo. Inside the zoo, there is a Wolverine that's bleeding out. Now, for Logan, this makes no sense at all. Why is an animal bleeding right now inside the zoo at night? And we kind of find out that there is a zookeeper who works overnight who was torturing the animals and of course made the Wolverine bleed. And so for Logan, that is not okay at all. And so you have Logan being able to take down the zookeeper, but to also free the animal who was very upset with the zookeeper. And so now that zookeeper has to run for his life, while this Wolverine tries to chase him down. Now, the last couple pages, we do see a few things happening. The first is that we actually see that Lady Deathstrike is in New York. And it does seem like she has some plans to go after Wolverine. And those plans involve bringing back somebody who used to go up against Logan in the past to hopefully use that person to kill off Wolverine. Now, after that, we also learn that Sabertooth did survive the attack of Albert, the cyborg Wolverine, which means he's also going to try to come back and get revenge against Wolverine as well. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.